Welcome back to Getting Open with me, Andrea Miller, calling all daters. My guest today is one of the world's foremost dating experts. We get into it real deep and very, very practically. We talk about the number one and two things to do to be a successful dater, the number one thing not to do, what so many daters get wrong, how you can use profile pics to your huge advantage, and critically, what the chicken nugget principle of dating is and why you must follow it if you want to be successful in your pursuit of true love. Let's get into it. Oh my God, Erika Ettin is our amazing guest today. Erika is the founder of A Little Nudge, a consulting company that helps people navigate the world of online dating from first click to first date. Erika studied economics at Cornell University, received her MBA from Georgetown, and started A Little Nudge in 2011 after a 7-year career as an economist. She's a smarty pants, people. She is also the author of Love at First Sight, Tips and Tales for Online Dating Success from a Modern Day Matchmaker. And most importantly, is responsible for many relationships, marriages, and the confidence some people simply need to get out there. Erika, welcome to Getting Open. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so I mean, what the burning starting question for me is, while dating apps proliferate and people literally have access to millions of daters, it seems to me, and I've been married for a long time, so I'm not out there in the market myself, but lots of friends and observations. It seems like it's never been harder to date than it is now for so many reasons. Is that accurate? Because you've been doing this now for almost 15 years. Am I getting this right? Is it getting harder, or am I misinformed?
I think people say it's harder. I think certain things, the paradox of choice, the fact that there are so many options out there, make it harder for people. However, I can't agree that it's actually harder to meet someone because you have access, like you said, to so many more people. But people tell themselves stories. You tell yourself, and I'm not discounting that dating can be frustrating. Obviously, it's my job to help people with dating. But I think if you tell yourself the story enough, dating is hard, it's hard to meet someone, that becomes your reality.
Mm-hmm. I mean, oh my gosh, that's like the ultimate truism, right? Whether you think you can or you think you can't, either way, you're right. So does that tend to be one of the things that you focus on most in your with your clients, kind of their mindset?
I find that 70% of my coaching clients start by complaining. And that's frustrating for me because I just want to give advice. I don't want to have to cheerlead.
Erika, you need to find better clients, the positive ones.
No, it's tough. I mean, it takes it out of me, number one. But two, I just want to help and give objective advice. But I often find myself, I'm not a therapist, and I'm not shy to tell people I'm not a therapist, but I often feel like there's a lot of overlap between what a therapist would do and what I do because I'm
totally. It's so personal and emotional, right?
Exactly. And so I do think people are making it harder on themselves by complaining about the very tools that are out there to help them. Now, many people don't use those tools well, which is unfortunate. Look, you're always going to have people with bad behaviors, people who ghost, people who say something unsavory, people who don't show up. That is unfortunate. But is it the tools' fault? No. Some people are just terrible.
Yeah. Well, I remember, I don't know if you're familiar with Helen Fisher. She was a dear friend and the number one most quoted person in love in the world. And she would always say, as the spokesperson for Match.com, she would always say these apps aren't dating sites. They're meeting sites. So they're, not dating tool. They're meeting. Exactly. It's about meeting, right? It's about then, you as a human being have to use your best judgment, your heart, your mind.
Absolutely. And if I sound a little negative or cynical, I'm not going to lie. It's because I just got off of Zoom with 2 coaching clients who really brought my energy level down, which is.
Oh, well, we're bringing it back up right now, Erika.
Well,
we're going to high vibes, baby.
Oh, don't worry. I have a high energy level personally, but it's just interesting how they're not only impacting themselves by having this negative energy, it impacted me.
Well, this is perfect. So they did us a favor. Thanks to those 2 crummy clients.
I didn't say crummy.
Okay, I said it.
Okay.
No, and I know, and I totally appreciate you didn't. You totally didn't. And by the way, I'm low vibe every now and then, like once a year. I'm just kidding.
My baseline is quite happy. Don't worry.
Yeah. No, but it's a really, really good point, right? So when I think about this idea of how infectious our energy is and how that is such an inside job, right? Like, I feel like
that happened to me. It's happening on dates. It's happening with everybody.
Yeah. So what do you tell people? Like, if you are really keeping it real with those clients and they're coming in, they're complaining, they're low vibe, negative.
Exactly. I mean, I'm going to tell you exactly about the 2 women I just talked to, and it was 2 women, and they don't know who they are, so it's okay if I say I'm not going to tell them names or anything.
Right. The day this was recorded, we are not telling anybody.
Exactly. Thank you very much. It's Christmas. No, just kidding. Anyway, the first one, 47 years old. The minute I logged into Zoom, I thought to myself, wow, this woman is beautiful. Like, that was my initial thought. And within the first 5 minutes, she's like, I have to tell you my story. And it was a very down type story. You know, it was about her divorce and it was about her struggles to have children. And I understand why she was telling me, obviously, as her dating coach. But the more we got into it, the more I realized she was bringing all of this baggage on her first dates. And she was already presuming that people would feel a certain way about her story. And so she was sort of on the defensive the whole time. She was like trying to deflect questions. And I'm like, look, your story is nobody's business until you decide to make it their business. Number one, just because someone asks you a prematurely personal question on the first date does not mean you owe them an answer. That's number one. And number two, however you frame things is how people see them. Because if you come in with a woe is me story, I think, poor girl. But if you come in with, this is my story, it made me who I am today, it was unexpected, but here we are, I think good for her. She's resilient. So much of life is framing.
Well, I'm going to add to that. I totally agree with the framing. But to me, it ultimately comes down to your energy. I mean, like, it really does. I'm not like being a woo-woo because it's in your body language.
Well,
right?
Yes, it's so in your body language. And I said, just as an exercise, find a book you don't want to read anymore, rip out the first, 7 chapters and start fresh. And that's where your life is right now. And we also talked about confidence. She had low confidence, lower self-esteem. And look, I don't have the tools. It is out of my scope to, I can't build somebody's confidence. That's just not something I have the power to do. However, I do sometimes say, and people receive this differently, and I try to be nice, of course, but I say, like, if you don't like yourself, if you truly hate yourself, which a lot of people say, why should someone else like you? And I don't say that to be mean, but, when I have people, a lot of women in particular, and I understand we all have our insecurities, we all have everything. But when someone says, I hate pictures of me, I hate how I look here, I hate how, and yet they're going for the top 1% of men, whatever that means to them, is it for validation? And so it's just an interesting conversation. So that was client number 1. And then I hop off and I get on with number 2, a younger woman, early 30s, seemed to have things together, and yet she wasn't responding back. First of all, she was being lazy in her first messages. Everything was, how's it going? How's it going?
First messages to the people she was reaching out to on her apps.
Let's say Bumble, for example. Yeah. She was writing, and she knows, she's been following me long enough. She knows not to do, how's it going? How's your day? It's lazy and boring.
God, it's a good thing I'm not dating. I would be so negged.
Don't worry, I train you up. So
okay.
Anyway,
yeah.
she was like, oh, well, if they answer, then I'll try. And I'm like, no, that's the opposite. You have to try to get them to answer. And then she was ignoring people who were giving her lazy answers back. And I'm like, but you started lazy. And then she was also ignoring people whose messages she deemed to be too long. And I'm like, So there's this little baby window that's perfect for you, but they don't have the rule book to what's perfect for you. So nobody wins. And he was like, this guy is too much. And I read his messages and they were so nice. It was like, wow, I see you do this for a living. I've always found that topic fascinating. How did you get into it? Like, that's a really nice message.
Yeah, no, totally. It shows some sincerity and
Yeah,
humanity.
she was like, no, it's too long. It's too many words. It lacks social awareness. I'm like, I don't know what is happening here, but there is something happening. And so that's where I am today.
Oh, I feel bad for her, right? Because I mean, when I like literally what makes me think about these women and all of us, men and women, have been guilty of some degree of self-sabotage, but it just
Self-sabotage,
feels like such a lack of self-awareness and ultimately self-sabotage because like you say, you're creating this little micro window and that, it's like how can you expect success when you're limiting your chances so much?
Exactly. What I will say to both of their credit is now, granted, I realize they're paying me for my time, so I'm not going to sugarcoat, but I will say they were both very receptive to my feedback. So the first one, she wanted to write a profile. I didn't even let us get to writing a profile in the time we had today because we had to work through this stuff first. And the second one, I was pretty hard on her. I was like, let people win. Do you think you're better than people? What is it? And she was like,
Let people win. Hang on. That is good. Let people win. But that really genuinely, it's like, that's a mindset shift. That's a reframing.
huge,
You know what I mean?
huge.
And when I
Because
think
we could have
about
a date
again,
every night of the week if she stopped with the, I don't know what it is. It's almost like, I don't know. I almost felt with her, it was like if she doesn't go out on dates, she can say, "Well, I tried and it didn't work."
and that's the story, right? I mean, and that's a story, again, a little bit back to this victim mentality where it's like we've got this negative narrative and to the extent that it confirmation bias, right? It's like I expect this, to go badly because everybody's a jerk and they lack social awareness and they're too superficial. Blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, and then you become, I mean, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy,
It
right?
is. I say that all the time. And again, I'm not dismissing the fact that dating can be exhausting and dating can be frustrated and there's annoying and terrible and flaky people out there sometimes. But we can't let that. I read somewhere once, I don't remember whose quote it was, but it was like, if you have 5 minutes of bad in your day, do you let the 5 minutes take over your whole day or do you put that aside? It was 5 minutes. Who cares? Most dates in general are going to be meh, or as the Gen Z say, mid. But I mean, most dates are going to be that. We can't expect most dates to go phenomenally well.
But
Hopefully,
hang on, I just want to pause there too, because that expectation, right? And to me, that's not about lower, like having a negative expectation. It's saying if I realize going into it, I mean, I feel like it's like a lot of things, like going to TJ Maxx,
managing,
like
I love TJ
most
Maxx.
of the things are mid, and then every now and then I find something fabulous, right?
Yes,
But I
managing
gotta,
expectations.
I
It's like
gotta keep looking.
yes, like
Yeah.
sometimes people go on 3 dates and they're like, why am I not connecting with anyone? And I say, like, I'd be happy if you connected with 1 out of every 20 people.
So it's literally that ratio.
I made up the number 20. It could be anything. Look,
But what would you expect? Just again, in the spirit of like, I want
would say
my
if you apply-
audience, I want them to get so successful in their online dating. They find love, they get married, they have babies, and they're like happily ever after.
I would say if you have high standards, whatever that means to you, I don't know what people different people have different standards. If you really like 1 out of every, I'll make up this number. I'll say 12. If you like 1 out of every 12 people, I am thrilled. That's not to say that person will like you. We have no idea. But I would say that's pretty good.
But do you feel like, let me ask about this. Do you feel like when one person's really feeling it, how common is that? 'Cause again, it's energetic, a lot of, that chemistry. How common in your observation is when one person's really feeling it, the other is likely to feel it?
I don't think one has to do with the other. I think sometimes one
Oh,
person.
really? So you feel like they're not correlated?
No, I mean,
Like when
someone
one
could
person-
come
okay.
home and say that was the best date of my life, and the other one could be like, nah, I think it's good to give someone positive reinforcement, like I'm having a really good time. Thank you again. But No, I don't think you liking someone more will make someone like you more, or vice
I
versa.
was just trying to figure out if, that kind of like that energetic match, how frequent it's like, oh, I'm feeling it. They're probably feeling it. But you're saying that those
I mean,
don't
sometimes
correlate.
it's obvious you're both feeling it, which is wonderful. Sometimes it's obvious you're both not feeling it, which honestly is fine. Who cares? No harm, no foul. It often happens where one person is more into it than the other. And that's just, there's nothing we can do about that. There's many things we can control, but other people's feelings we cannot.
Well, but even that, it feels like when I think about the friends that I have and the experiences that I've observed, it's like maybe you're not feeling it right away. Like everybody wants that like chemical attraction, right? Like boom, like like you say in your work, kind of love at first sight. Because that's pretty infrequent, should the advice be, hey, maybe you're not feeling it right away. As long as they don't totally turn you off, should you give them a second chance?
100%. That is the advice. Because, yeah, we just don't. I mean, I think it's unrealistic to think we're going to see sparks and fireworks. And honestly, sometimes when you do, it's because you're so physically attracted to someone, you're completely ignoring everything else. And so, yeah, generally, if you're curious enough to have one more conversation with someone, I always advise another date. And I think a lot of people say, well, I don't want to lead someone on if I'm not sure. And I always say, you're not leading someone on, you're dating. If you're going on another date just to see, that's dating. Totally fine. Leading someone on is like, I know I have no interest.
Yeah. Well, totally. Okay, so I just have to rewind because when you say 1 out of 12 people, there's likely to be a connection. That exhausts
I
me.
didn't say there's likely. I'd be happy if you liked 1 out of every 12 dates you go on. Now, let's say you go on 4 dates a month. Let's say you go out once a week. That now takes you 3 months. Many people, unfortunately, will quit before that 3-month period, being like, well, I went on a few dates. I'm not feeling a connection. And this is a cumulative process. This is not a, go on a few dates. If you don't connect, take yourself off the market. Like, it's not for the faint of heart. I understand you have to have some energy. You have to, really pick yourself up to go on these dates. But if those 12 dates take those 3 months, and 12 is a number I completely made up. I have a former client who brags to everybody that she married the 26th date she had when we were working together. And I love this. She said to me, I thought it was going to be 100. I feel like I won the prize, And so that really spoke to me.
Well, okay. So, how many? So, if you're going on a date a week, right? To your point, you manage to go on 4 per month. If you're serious about, and presumably the people that are coming to you because they are paying you, they're actually looking for love. They're looking for a match. They're not just wanting to date just to have fun.
Most everyone. I will have a few clients here and there who just got out of a long marriage or relationship and they're not ready to be in another one yet, but they haven't dated maybe ever. And so they just really need some hand holding. But yes, I would say on the whole, the people I work with are looking for a long-term serious relationship, whether that means marriage or not.
Okay, got it. And just for anybody who says, "Oh my God, I would love Erika's help," you take people all over the world, all over the U.S.
Yeah.
because it's all remote, right?
Everything's on Zoom. Yep.
All right, awesome. And we'll share your contact information at the end and in the show notes. What would you recommend? I mean, if you're a man or a woman and you're like, I really want to find love, how many dates should they be going on every week?
Well, let's take it even a step back. How are we even getting these dates, right? So I recommend doing 2 dating sites or apps at the same time.
Oh, good. Oh, yeah. I have these kind of detailed questions. Which ones? Are you allowed to say which ones you love the most?
I can say anything. I'm not bound.
Like, I am a free agent.
I don't work for anyone. I work for me. I will say the most popular sites right now for most areas of the world are Bumble and Hinge. Lately, I've been liking Hinge the most for no particular reason other than I think their user interface is pretty good. Now, some of my older clients, and when I say older, there are specific sites for people who are over 50. So I'm not saying that's old. I'm saying that's
not old. It's young.
I know, obviously. That's why I said
very young. 50 is a new 30.
Again, I'm not saying anything is old, but I'm saying some of my clients who are over 50 are on sites that are catered to people over 50, like Our Time, silver singles.
Okay. Our
I do have
time
some
super
clients
single.
still on Match.com, but not a lot, to be honest. I don't think Match has kept up with the times as well. Match owns
And
a
Match
lot.
owns Tinder, right?
I was going to say they own Tinder, they own Hinge, they own Our Time, they own a ton of sites.
Oh, okay.
So, maybe they put their energy and their money and their focus into some of the newer ones.
In the
I
maybe
really,
more kind of niche ones.
yeah, I couldn't say. Even, yeah, I find most clients now, look, we're all kind of surgically attached to our phones. So most clients want to be on an app that is accessible from their phone. I would say Hinge and Bumble are the ones that most of my clients use these days.
Okay. And so rewinding. So, because I asked how many dates people should go on. So you said like, let's rewind.
So how are we getting dates?
Yeah. Two apps. You should be on two apps. Okay.
If you think you have the capacity to do two, if you feel like that's too much time, energy, then do one. I'd rather you do one well than like sometimes I'll look at people's phones and they'll have 7. And then I'm like, what's going on? I don't know. I never open them. So like, don't do that. Also, depending on where you live, obviously bigger cities have more options for events. I also recommend going to 3 in-person events per month.
Okay, for sure.
What kind of in-person events? If there is something like a singles event, a speed dating, a mixer, a happy hour of some sort near you, that's great. That should be at least one of the 3. And then the other 2 can be just things you enjoy. I'm going to a cocktail making class tonight with a friend of mine. That would be a fun event for somebody to try to meet someone. You could go to a comedy show. You could go to a fitness class. You can go to a magic show. I'm making things up. Just thinking of all the things I enjoy doing. So things where you'll have access to meeting new people. Obviously, you don't know if they're single or not. You don't know if they're interested, but it just gets you outside your comfort zone to say hi to new people. And I just recommend, I tell people you don't need to be creative. You just need to go up to a new person and say, I don't think we've met. I'm Erika.
Okay. I don't think we've met. That's a good easy icebreaker, right?
And then you just read the room. If they want to talk to you, you'll know. If they don't, you'll know.
Yeah. No, totally. I mean, it is so much. I forget the Wayne Gretzky quote about like all the shots
you don't take.
Yes. And it does feel like it's, or just using another baseball metaphor, it's like, how many times are you able to get at bat? Right. And so this idea of just saying, I am going to have to put myself out there if I want that outcome. And, for me as an entrepreneur, it's like, if you don't put yourself out there, nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Right. I mean, it's not dissimilar from searching for a job. Let's say you get laid off and what is your next step? It's probably, I don't know. I haven't searched for a job in a long time, but you probably put together a resume. Maybe you ask for help with that. Maybe you hire somebody. You probably have to write a cover letter that's very specific to that job. Then you send a bunch out. Most are not going to reach out to you because either you don't qualify or whatever. Do you quit? No. Some are going to call you in for an interview. Some of them, you're going to hate the company and be like, blech, I don't want to work here. And that's useful information. You needed to go to the interview to find that. Some, they're going to offer you a job and you're like, it turns out I don't actually want this job. And you might go to, let's use that same number. You might go to 12 interviews and none of them worked out, but you're not going to say, well, I guess working's not for me. Of course not.
Well, yeah. And what it reminds me of as a creative person, for me, I'm an author and other creative things. And I say this to my team all the time.
I think of it like, don't you worry.
Oh, thank you. No, but I think of it like composting because it's so easy as a writer and as a creator to be like, oh, I'm getting attached to those words. I put the effort in, but I think of the same, honestly, the dating analogy and to the job search analogy, it's the same. It's like you needed to go on all those dates. You needed to go through the process of filling in, job applications and all that stuff. And it's like, oh, that was a waste. But it's composting. Like it's the literal crap
I love
that you put in the effort that gets the outcome, right? Then you get your flowers.
100%.
I'm also a gardener.
I love that. I've never composted anything in my life, but I think that's a great
It's a
analogy.
good metaphor, right?
It's a really good metaphor. And, kind of like you just said, unfortunately, I have a lot of people, let's say they go out with someone 3 or 4 times and then that person doesn't want to see them anymore. They'll be like, I'm starting at 0. No, you're not. You
I
just
wasted
learned
my
so-
time,
not
right?
even a
And that is
little.
so wrong.
That's such a bad, like, you're not at square one. You didn't waste your time. You've learned what you like. You've learned what you don't like. Hey, maybe you tried a new restaurant. Maybe you went to a new neighborhood. So, yeah, well, we're preaching to the choir here.
Yeah, we're preaching the choir. But hopefully the people listening are like, ooh, snap. They can bring that sense rather of feeling. And by the way, I used to do this too, whether it's with, my creative work or other instances, it's like, oh, I wasted my time. But that your point from earlier on, that reframing and saying, okay, I didn't waste my time. This is a natural part of a necessary part of the process. But let me ask you a few other questions. So when it comes, I feel like there are tropes about dating, like a man over 40 that's never been married. Is he marriage material? Yes or no?
Did you see me roll my eyes?
I saw you roll your eyes, but for people listening who can't see you rolling your eyes.
Oh, that's true. No, I think that's a ridiculous assumption, a ridiculous arbitrary cutoff. Everyone's got a story. And stop trying to dig into what that story is. Like stop trying to make people prove what's not wrong with them. Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, listen, I wrote a book called Radical Acceptance. So I'm like, out of the gate, I'm a big believer in meet them where they are. Helen Fisher would always say, scan for the good.
Well, exactly. That's 100% true. And I like that advice because I think for women dating men, whether it's 40 or 45 or 50, who cares? They're thinking, what's wrong with you? Why do you have commitment issues? First of all, never having been married, not everyone wants to be married, first of all. Second, never married does not equal no long-term relationship. And then I think often it's for men dating women who are like, you're beautiful. What's wrong with you? Which is like, again, everyone's looking for that thing wrong. How about?
But it's kind of protective, right? I mean, don't you think there's a little bit of a protective mechanism in there? Because then it's like, ooh, if I can make them wrong, then I can feel a little better about myself, which is pretty effed up. If you ask me.
I never thought of it that way, to be honest, but I think you make a really good point. I always think of it as in their effort to, quote, not waste time, they're trying to fast forward the things that actually do take time. Like I always say, you can't microwave a relationship. And then sometimes this never caught on, but I really wanted it to. I called it chicken nugget theory. I don't know why it didn't catch on, but.
Oh, it's not too late, Erika. It is not too late. And you needed to have this theory out there for at least, I don't know, 4 years before it could
chicken
catch on.
nugget theory. You get home, you're very hungry. You have frozen chicken nuggets in your freezer. Okay. You're starving. You had a long day. You could microwave your chicken nuggets. And they'll be done in 2 minutes and they will be serviceable chicken nuggets. They won't be satisfying. They'll be soggy.
They're going to be, kind of soggy, not evenly cooked, maybe a little rubbery.
Cooked. You might burn your tongue, but you know what? You can eat them. Whereas if you put them in the oven, the toaster, the air fryer, whatever the heck method that takes longer, even though it takes longer, when those come out after 20 minutes, they're cooked evenly. You're going to feel satisfied. And so even if in the end, you don't even love the chicken nuggets, maybe the Costco brand isn't for you. You got a good sense of what those nuggets can offer you.
Yeah. Well, it feels like it's a little bit of like somewhat delayed gratification, but it also feels like it's the maturity to say, making an investment, and again, it's a fun analogy, but when it really comes to dating, to me, it feels like having the maturity to say, I'm willing to be patient because the payoff is extraordinary. I mean, it's like the greatest gift in the world to find that powerful connection.
Someone made a quote recently that I'm definitely not going to be able to find now that I want to find it. I don't remember. I'll try to find it later,
right.
But it was about
that. If you get it, otherwise
it was about that, basically. Like everyone wants to speed up the process and no one wants to take the time. But if I'm not going to say it as well as it was, but like taking the time proves to you that you deserve what you were waiting for. Something like that. And it was so beautiful. It was better said than I just did. But like also, I think a lot of people have ideas in their head about what their partner should be and what this and what that. And it's like, we all think people should accept us exactly as we are, which I agree with. And yet the minute someone else has one little baby thing we don't think is right, we're like, boop, dismiss. Like, this one's interesting. I had a former client, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, woman in her late 40s. And she met a guy, she liked him. 6 months in, they're in love. Okay, great. I'm thrilled. Everybody's happy. She calls me in a panic one day, and I'm like, oh God, what? Like, I just assumed he broke up. I didn't know what was going on. She goes, I found out he does drugs sometimes. And I'm like, okay. Like, clearly he doesn't do it that often because it's been 6 months. Like, she would have known. I guess like every 6 months he does I don't know. I'm not terribly familiar with drugs, but he does mushrooms.
Oh, listen. Oh my God. That's one of my favorite topics. You can use mushrooms therapeutically. And it, like, when I think bad drugs, they're like,
Perfect.
like this
I
is
was
kind
so
of a good drug.
like, what's the word? Nonplussed. I was so like, okay. I was waiting for the problem.
Yeah. Waiting for the punchline. Like,
Yeah.
what
she
shoe's
was
going to
like,
drop
if
over
I
here?
had known that when we started, I would have never gone out with him again. And I said to her, I don't remember her name, so we'll call her Beverly because I made that up. I'm like, Beverly, you're in love. I said, would you take back the last 6 months of getting to know each other and falling in love because of one thing you think you didn't want that now you clearly can live with? I don't even remember her answer. But it made me feel sad that people are so quick to dismiss that she couldn't even see all the good and that the time she put in was worth it.
Well, I think of these kinds of things. I've got this theory around, I call it the uninvited Buddha, these people that bring challenges into our lives, right? So she brought him a challenge, and, the quick response is often to resist, resent, reject. And I have really had to train myself to go, ooh, what is this teaching me? Right? Because I don't know if you're familiar with Sue Johnson's work, rest in peace, Sue Johnson, but just how her whole point was, she was the founder of emotional EFT. And I'm blanking on it. But anyway, I mean, her whole thing is how relationships grow each other. And I think when that person that you really care deeply about brings you a challenge and tests your beliefs, right? Obviously abuse. I mean, we're not, those are not part of the picture.
Of course.
But when it comes to, how might I grow? How might I be willing to revisit something that I thought was right? And I mean, honestly, it feels like in so many ways in our lives, we can be so rigidly attached to our judgments, to our perceptions at our peril. And holy smokes, is that not ever true in today's political climate? If you didn't vote like me, you're canceled. It's like, is that a good idea? I mean, not saying if it is or it isn't. I'm just asking.
I understand. I completely agree with you. And yet none of us is perfect, clearly. We all have stuff. I call it a perceived red flag. So like, people throw around red flag these days, the term, they'll be like, I didn't like his socks. Is that a red flag? No, that's not a red flag. That's probably a sock, so.
Right.
I call some of these things perceived red flags. And the reason I use perceived is because it's not objective. So someone might see his drug use as to them, they don't love it. It's a perceived, whereas someone else might actually love that. And so everyone has a different set of those. And it's basically whoever you end up with, what set of perceived red flags, because everybody has some, can you live with, and which ones can't you?
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I do think there is, especially in this political climate, I mean, let's face it, there's a loneliness epidemic, a mental health crisis in America. There is such a anxiety crisis. I just feel like generally the degree of tolerance most of us have for discomfort. I mean, there's a book called The Comfort Crisis, and it's like we are so used to controlling everything. We have our phones. We can get, on Amazon, depending on where you live, you can get it delivered that day or the next day. You control, like, you don't have to answer. You don't even have to answer the phone anymore. It's like, oh, that goes to voice. I mean, nobody even calls anymore. So, right. I mean, it's like we're so used to controlling our experience, the temperatures in our cars and our homes. And so it just feels like this has been this insidious societal change where we're so used to having control and comfort when we're the least bit inconvenienced or somebody makes us feel a little uncomfortable because they keep their socks on the floor, or they don't communicate exactly, or whatever that is, it just feels like there's a increased lack of tolerance. And then you end up in this like really vicious cycle. Okay, well, I don't have tolerance for any of these people's, being real and human and imperfect. And guess what? Now I'm alone, and now I'm really anxious and mad.
I
right? Because
wish I didn't agree with that, but I do. I think you're right. And I think sort of another side to that is people are really uncomfortable with uncertainty too. And so not just the lack of control.
100%.
Right. And so I find that if people don't know where something is going, they're hesitant to even start it. But the reality of it is, I often have to say, like, the other person isn't withholding information from you. The other person doesn't know exactly where this is going, and they've decided not to share that. They are also figuring it out.
It's a journey, right? It's a journey.
But that's a tough one. I have a video. I haven't even posted it yet. But it says basically like everyone wants to flip to the last chapter of the book, but the last chapter of the book hasn't been written yet. You're co-writing it. There is nothing to flip to.
Yeah. No, but I love that. And that it's actually something that I encountered. There was a great post on Instagram yesterday about discomfort in uncertainty. I was like, oh, I needed that right now to calm myself out a little bit. And it was like, oh, okay. If I can really be aware that I'm uncomfortable in this uncertainty, and then go, let me be curious, and let me just go, this is part of the experience. Like I had an instant, like I could feel that physical reaction. It was like, oh, this is just what I needed just now. But hang on, we totally got sidetracked from my question. How many dates, right? You got to go, you need to do 3 in-person events a month, right? Okay. And so then you're on the 2 dating apps, you do 3 in-person events per month. What else do people need to do to optimize their chances?
I generally recommend, just downloading the apps is not enough. Obviously write a profile that, yeah, you say that, but write a profile that you think represents you. I try to stay away from anything deep in the profile. I'd rather it just be hobbies, things you enjoy. We want to make it easy for people to write to you. They'll get to know who you are at your core once they get to know you. But then if you're finding that you're either not logging into the apps or logging in too much, I generally recommend logging in twice a day, 15 minutes apiece. So 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the evening. That way you get back to everyone in a timely fashion within 24 hours. Maybe in the morning you send a bunch of outbound messages, and maybe in the evening you just monitor to see who's written back, if anyone.
Okay. And then on that basis, people should be aiming for how many dates a week or how many dates a month?
Oh, everybody's different. It depends on where they live, their criteria, there are a million things. I would love for everyone to go on at least 1 date a week.
At least 1 date a week. Okay.
If possible.
Yeah. Can you go on too many dates a week?
Yeah, 5. That's too many.
Really? Oh my God. I thought you were going to say like 20. Like you're doing lunch,
20?
you're doing dinner, and you're doing like, well, I'm kind of joking, but kind of not. Listen, I lived in New York City for a long time. There was one lady that I was friendly with. She was very, like a lot of us type A ladies that live in New York, we're like hardcore. That she probably was going on maybe 1 or 2 dates. So 20, I'm being sarcastic, but like 1 or 2 dates a day. It's like, okay, I'm going to meet this person for maybe an after work drink, and then somebody else for dinner or whatever.
Everyone has a different capacity, though. Most people would get burned out after 2 days of doing that, right? So you got to find that perfect balance where you're meeting enough people, but you're not burning yourself out.
Yeah. No, and I think that's a really wise point. Like, it almost seems like you have to be willing to get out of your comfort zone, right? Because the easiest thing would be like, don't go on any dates, just like, Netflix and chill.
And that's a valid choice, too. I think single is a wonderful choice. It's an underrated. Yeah. I think being single is a wonderful way to live. And so if that's your choice, that's fine.
Well, of course. But if you want a date, then you gotta do the work. You gotta show up.
Well, it's funny. I'm people always threaten. They send me these messages like, I'm taking myself off the apps. I'd rather be single. And I'll be like, I totally support that. I know that's not the answer.
Well, but it's a protest move. Let's face it.
I know what it is. That's why I don't play into it.
Yeah. Okay. So what is the number one thing, the number one mistake that you see women making when they're trying to date successfully and men? Is it the same or is it different?
Well, we already talked about people's attitudes, so we'll move past that.
Okay, but but actually, let me just rewind. Pretend we didn't talk about that. Would you say that someone having a bad attitude is the number one problem?
100%.
Oh.
Everyone wants the outcome. Also, they don't want to do the work. That's the other one.
Ooh. Everyone wants the outcome. Oh my God. I'm not going to say which child, but there's one of my children I have this conversation with a lot. You want to be up here, but you're only doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Wants the outcome.
The most important things in life take time, energy, and money. It's like the amount we spend on our lattes versus what? You won't upgrade Hinge for a month? Why? That's ridiculous.
Oh, but that's important. I mean, so because I'm not on the apps, I don't know these things. But is it important? So you want to be on 2 apps, but is it worth in your opinion?
I actually think the free versions are completely fine. But if you're only not upgrading because of the money, which it's like $35 or something, that's being stubborn. Now, do I think the upgrades are necessary? No, you can actually have a wonderful experience on any of the apps for free. But if there is something that's really important to you, like religion or something, I don't know, and you want to use one of the filters, then it is worth paying so you can filter in or out what you're looking for. And it's just interesting to me that I know what I charge for a 40-minute session, which is a lot more than $35, right? And I love that someone will come to me and spend that, but then they won't want to spend on like a little basic upgrade. And it doesn't add up to me.
Yeah. Well, to me, honestly, I think of that, and I come from a, family fiscally conservative and, scared. And so I've had to deal with that abundance versus scarcity mentality. And the older I get, I choose abundance. And it's like, spend the money, spend the time, and don't stress about it. And it's like, oh, amazing how that ends up. That becomes the self-fulfilling prophecy,
well, right.
One of abundance versus one of scarcity.
Well, it's like people spend a lot more on things that bring them less joy and things that don't further their lives. I live in New York. I walk outside the door and I somehow spent $50. I don't know how.
Oh my God, no kidding. So don't get in an Uber. Don't go into Midtown.
$30 minimum. So
yeah.
So I would say, yeah, it's wanting that outcome without understanding or accepting that nobody is above putting in work. I think sometimes people think this should come easily, but it shouldn't. Anything that's important should take time and energy and work. And so nobody is above that. In terms of profiles and stuff, look, I could talk about picture advice and what everyone's doing.
I want you to talk about picture advice. I was reading one of your Instagram posts and I'm like, thank God I'm not dating because I would fail this. So what are the key tips for great profile pictures? You have such good advice.
Thank you. Here's what people want to see. They want to see who's showing up on the date. They want to see your face and they want to see your body. That's it. Let's not overcomplicate things. So many people are like, but I want them to see I have a social life, but I want them to see this, that, and that. Okay. The baseline is you probably have a social life unless all of your pictures are like mirror selfies, which they should not be. So I only recommend pictures with you alone. If you want to crop people out, great. If you want to show someone's, arm next to you to show that you were with a friend sometime, fine, totally fine. But what I don't want is having people compare you to your friends and deciding that your friend is the better looking one.
Right.
And so first picture.
Or not knowing, right? Is it possible I put a picture with me and my good looking girlfriend and it's like, I don't know.
One of those 2 clients I had this morning had 3 pictures with friends. I'm sitting there on Zoom looking at her and I said, I can't tell which one is you in this picture. And she was surprised that I couldn't tell. I said, you're both petite brunettes. I don't know what to say. I genuinely cannot tell which is you. And so anyway, so the first picture should be a nice clear shot of your face, preferably smiling. The second one should be a full body, preferably standing, wearing something that you might wear on a date. So that is representative of you. The third one should be you doing something interesting that might generate a question. So for you, for example, you have this beautiful podcasting microphone and a bookshelf behind you. I can't think of a more interesting. That would be such a wonderful picture because I could ask you, oh, do you have a podcast? Are you being a guest on a podcast? Are you giving a TED Talk? Do you organize your books by color, by genre, by size? What's your favorite book back there? Is that a virtual back? I don't know. I could ask you anything.
Right.
about
Yeah.
that.
No, it's a starting off point. It's like,
Exactly. And then the other three should just be you in your element. So I always use, when I post this stuff on Instagram, I just use myself so I don't have to use a client for the sake of example. And I put a picture of me on stage. I do like wordplay comedy, pun competitions. So it's hilarious. So if there's a picture of me at a pun competition that most people might ask, oh, are you doing stand up? So that starts a conversation. There's a picture of me in London with a giant oyster because I love oysters and the oyster's huge. So it's like, oh, where did you get that very large oyster? And then I used as an example a picture of me touching an elephant because I was in Kenya. And it's like, oh, where were you? And so anything that might represent something you do and might generate a question. That's it. Don't overthink it.
okay. And what about the don'ts? Should I be sending a picture of me in my car?
No, well, that's not the worst of it. No.
I know. I was going to say in bed.
Oh my God, please. No car selfies, no bed selfies. I don't like mirror selfies either. I certainly don't like bathroom mirror selfies. Most women don't
Why
like.
is that? Because
the toilets are not sexy.
oh, okay.
Urinals
Well,
are not
I'm
sexy.
presuming people have the intelligence not to include
Don't
the toilet.
presume
but okay.
that.
Okay.
The mirror is usually filthy. It's just like, it's not, there's nothing appealing about it. Don't put filters on your pictures. They should be you au naturel.
No filters. Ooh, okay.
Of course. Don't stick your tongue out. Don't give the middle finger. Don't.
Oh my
I
God,
always
that's
say
hilarious.
for guys, if your bros would pat you on the back because they're like, oh man, that's so funny, it's probably not appropriate. And all the ones where the phallic symbols are like coming out. Don't do that.
Yeah, probably not a
the
good idea.
Washington Monuments coming out of your junk. Don't do that. That's a picture for your bros.
Yeah.
So,
oh my God.
I mean, again, don't overthink this. People just want to see.
Okay,
the
what about
person
sexy selfies?
showing
What
on
I,
a date.
like?
I would
and-
not
and
do
maybe
sexy selfies.
Okay.
I don't recommend bikini pictures, and here's why: because I want the ability to see you mostly naked to be a choice you make for somebody, right? Also, when I see a woman who has so much to offer, like whatever, in terms of, she has a successful job, whatever, she's educated, and then I see all these bikini pictures, I feel sad. I think to myself, is that what she thinks she has to offer? Because we all have a lot of multi-dimensional things to offer. And so what you look like in clothing is just fine. Let it be a bonus, the bikini, later when someone earns that.
Yeah. Well, I love it. I mean, what you're saying, just really to summarize and simplify, who is showing up on the date, show your body, show your face, and keep it simple. Like you say, don't overthink it. Okay, smiling, with teeth, without teeth.
Have at least one, probably more than one picture of you with teeth, or else people probably assume you don't have teeth or you have really bad teeth. And that's fine. If your teeth are not great, who cares? But show them.
Okay. All right. Now you have an acronym, NATO,
Mm-hmm.
not attached to an outcome, which I freaking love. Like
Thank you.
I always try to be the best Buddhist I can be.
Thank you.
Yeah. So why is that important? What does it mean? Why is that important?
A lot of people put a lot of pressure on themselves to feel something or to know something on a first date. Like, for example, they know they want to get married. That's just an example. And now they go on a first date and they've put all of this pressure on themselves to figure out if this person, this stranger sitting next to them, having a glass of wine, is going to be their future spouse. They're too attached to the outcome they want, and they're trying to backfill somebody into that. Whereas I'd rather you start at point A, meet a new person, see how that person might or might not fit into your life, and sort of detach yourself from that out. You can still want the long-term serious relationship. You can still want marriage, but it's just a mindset shift where you go into each date not thinking about the outcome, but rather looking at this person as an individual and just seeing, do I have a nice conversation with this person?
That gets back to the attitude thing. Like if you're open, for me, it's like, I always wear my open heart necklace, like open-hearted, open-minded, like just coming with that vibe. That changes the dynamic.
It really does. And it makes you have more fun, and it makes you be more present because you're not asking these pressing questions that are completely premature and out of context. You're just I don't care if you learn nothing on the date other than that you smiled or laughed or felt good about yourself. Like, I don't care if in fact, I don't want you learning about people's past relationships. I don't want you learning about their family dynamics. I want you learning that they play pickleball and like go to the beach on the weekends and that they said something funny that you laughed at. That's it.
Okay, I know we got to wrap up here in a few minutes. So I've got
I can
3
talk to you
rapid
all
fire
day.
questions.
Uh-huh.
I know, me too. I wish you cancel that next appointment. That person doesn't need your help.
Sorry.
Just kidding. I hope they're going to be high vibe, Erika. And I want you to write back to me like, that client was the best client I've ever had. And anyway, so 30 to 60-second answers. What is the one thing most people do wrong on the first date?
I would say they get too serious too fast. Kind of like we talked about earlier. They're trying to dismiss people. They're trying to find reasons to say no. I would rather you just keep it light. They go in with an agenda. Don't do that.
Okay, no agenda, just
agenda.
keep it light. No agenda, keep it light. I think you just answered that in like 10 seconds. You were doing awesome.
I'm so efficient.
You were crushing this. I'm like, trying to take notes. Okay.
Like a pineapple.
Next one.
Okay, sorry.
Totally. Okay, what's the best opener for online dating?
Oh,
like when you're messaging somebody.
I don't have a standard one. So read the person's profile and make a statement / ask a question about it. So for example, if I saw you in the picture with your microphone and your books, I would say something like, oh man, you probably have 4 times the number of books I do. Anything you've read this year that you would really recommend? That's it. Question mark.
Just being thoughtful, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, kind of basic.
Mm-hmm. I said something about me. I also like to read. You like to probably read more. And then I asked a question.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Right. So just intentional and thoughtful and, being a little more.
Humor can't hurt. I could have said something like, I see you love a physical book. Do audiobooks count as quote reading? That with a smiley face? That would be a cute message too.
Yeah, totally. Well, okay. I was going to ask this last quick one, just given our tight time. There is, you were talking about people want to know who's showing up on the first date. And I expect in terms of the don'ts, it seems like there are so many horror stories about somebody who has misled. Like they've put a picture up that's really old or that not representative of them. I'm expecting that's a huge don't. What do you feel like is the etiquette? If I go on a date and I meet a guy that looks totally different, do I politely say something or do I just say, it's not I'm going to be polite. I'm going to keep it short. And then I just move on. Do you think that it's good etiquette to say, wait, there's a disconnect here?
I think you have to do what you feel comfortable with. I think most people are not comfortable saying to somebody's face, you really misled me.
Or after the fact.
Or after the fact. It's not your job necessarily to give somebody advice. Now, I'm more blunt than most people are, so I might say something, but I don't know if I would give the advice to say something. Also, this person is a liar. Like you also might fear there might be a negative repercussion if you say something.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I want you to do the thing that you feel the most safe and the most comfortable. I did once, this was a really long time ago, 10 years ago. I did leave a date who had lied about both his height and his age quite significantly. And the thing is, it was unfortunate because I would have included him for his age and I would have included him for his height. It was that he lied.
Oh, but it was just it was the misleading. Well, and that's maybe just because we got to go. It seems to me as a non-dater, but still like a very big don't is to mislead somebody. Yeah, like age or
don't lie about your
height,
age,
weight,
your height, your pictures. I would rather you go on fewer dates with people who are actually looking for you than getting people on a date through a trick. Your personality is not good enough that it's going to win someone over because overarching is that you lied.
Yeah. And it's like tainted before it even begins.
Yeah. If someone didn't look like their pictures, honestly, I'd probably spend 30 minutes maybe and then be like, I have to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Politely. Right. So you can make that. And that's I feel like a lesson in life. But just in the spirit of, I feel like there's so much commoditization with the dating apps because you can reach so many people that business of just being courteous, knowing that, like they're human too. It feels like all of us. And by the way, it's like whether you're going to Starbucks or wherever it is, how we interact with strangers it matters.
Kindness doesn't cost anything. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Erika Ettin, thank you so much. I really loved our conversation. There are so many great takeaways, and I'll look forward to, I hope, meeting you in person one of these days. Next time I'm in New York, it'd be fun to get together. All right, take care. Thanks so much. Oh my gosh, that was riveting. I hope you feel, if you are dating, and just feel honestly energized and inspired to get out there and succeed in your dating life. And if you're looking for love, that you just feel a little more confident and excited to use these, a lot of tips and hacks. But, when I think critically what she was talking about with attitude and letting people win, and oh my goodness, just showing up NATO, not being attached to the outcome, just really meeting people where they are. I mean, it just feels like a lot of what we talked about. Yes, it's especially germane when you're dating, but it also feels germane just in terms of how we can connect more deeply and openly with people beyond dating. Anyway, this is a wrap of the show. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you aren't following us, please do. We are on YouTube, Spotify, iHeart, Audible, wherever you can get podcasts and video podcasts. So please do follow, like. I love comments, and I especially love reader letters. So if you're feeling it, please write to me at gettingopen@yourtango.com. I'd love your feedback. I'd love your questions, thoughts about that guests. How can we make the show even better? Because Dane, myself, Lily, Jacqueline, my whole team, we are bringing the show to you with our full hearts. We are so passionate because we really just want to make the world a better place through the show. And we hope it's resonating with you. All right, guys, thanks so much. We'll see you next time.